Over 2.3 billion cans of Pringles are sold worldwide every year, bringing in more than $3 billion in revenue. That's around 6 million cans sold each day. To meet this massive demand, giant machines harvest tons of potatoes from the fields. But how are 10 million Pringles chips produced every single day? Pringles were created in the 1960s by chemist Frederick Bauer to solve problems with regular chips. He used potato flakes to make uniform, unbreakable chips and pack them in a can. After launching in 1968, Pringles became a worldwide hit with many unique flavors. To find out, we visited the Pringles factory to uncover the process behind one of the most iconic snacks on the planet. The journey of a Pringle begins in the potato fields. When the potatoes are ready to harvest, the fields look like green carpets. That's when the massive harvesting machines get to work. These powerful machines can collect up to 5 tons of potatoes at a time. As the machine moves along the rows, sharp blades dig into the soil to lift the potatoes along with dirt and roots. The mix then moves onto a vibrating conveyor belt that filters out stones and loose soil, while the potatoes continue forward into a large hopper. This entire process is carefully designed to avoid damaging the potatoes. Once the harvester is full, the load is transferred to trucks that carry the potatoes straight to the factory. A single Pringles plant receives around 50,000 kilograms of fresh potatoes every day. Once the potatoes arrive at the factory, they're placed on a conveyor belt that carries them to the washing station. This is no ordinary rinse. They're submerged in large tanks of water, where a hydro washing system removes dirt and any remaining debris. After washing, the potatoes move on to the peeling machine. This machine is lined with a rough surface, similar to sandpaper. As the potatoes spin and roll around, the skin is gently scraped off, leaving them clean and smooth. Next, the peeled potatoes are checked by a worker for any signs of damage or bruising. Then, they're briefly dipped in hot water, a process known as blanching. This softens the potatoes for easier cutting and stops enzymes that could spoil the flavor or color. Slicing and steaming. After blanching, the potatoes are placed inside a spinning drum that rotates at 100 revolutions per minute. Inside this drum are ultra-sharp blades. The force of the spin pushes the potatoes against the blades, slicing them into thin strips, then into small cubes. This part of the process is incredibly fast. A whole potato is diced in less than a second. The small cubes are sent along a vibrating belt, which keeps them separated and aligned. Special cameras scan the cubes for any defects. The potato cubes are then steamed at a high temperature of about 174 degrees Celsius. Once fully cooked, they are mashed into a smooth, lump-free puree inside a large industrial mixer. Now comes the real transformation. The smooth potato puree is spread out onto a giant drying drum. As the drum spins and heats up, the moisture evaporates, leaving behind thin and flexible sheets of dried potato. These sheets are then ground into potato flakes, the main ingredient in Pringles dough. In a large mixer, the flakes are combined with water, cornstarch, rice flour, wheat starch, corn flour, salt, and emulsifiers that help bind everything together.
The resulting dough has a texture similar to wet sand. It travels along a conveyor to a screw press, which spreads it evenly. Then a huge roller applies 4 tons of pressure to flatten the dough to just 1 millimeter thick. A rotary cutter stamps out oval-shaped chips from the flattened dough. Any leftover dough is recycled back into the mix to reduce waste. The cut chips are then sent to the fryer, where they receive their famous curved shape. As they pass through the fryer, a roller presses them into the classic Pringles form, curved like a saddle. The chips are fried in oil at 200 degrees for exactly 11 seconds. This step locks in their shape and gives them the golden color and crunch we all know. Once fried, they are cooled down using hot air at around 40 degrees to remove excess oil. Next comes the seasoning. Each chip is carefully sprinkled with a specific amount of flavoring. In total, about 2,700 kilograms of seasoning are used daily across all the various flavors. Thanks to their shape, the chips naturally fall into perfect stacks. A quality control worker checks for chips that are broken, under-seasoned, or defective. The chips are then weighed to ensure each can contains the right amount. An automated spoon loads the chips into the signature cans. A metal bottom is sealed on and a lid is added to the top to keep them fresh. Before shipping, the cans go through a final check. One of the last steps is a blind taste test. Trained tasters sample chips without seeing them to avoid any visual bias. They judge the chip's crunch, texture, and flavor. If even one chip doesn't meet the standards, the entire batch is rejected. Only after passing all inspections are the cans packed into boxes and shipped to warehouses, supermarkets, and stores around the world.
The production of beef patties in a factory involves careful processes and strict quality control to deliver a consistent and delicious product to consumers. The process often begins with selecting high-quality cuts of beef, usually a combination of lean and fatty meat, to achieve the desired fat content in the final product. The meat is then ground using industrial meat grinders to create a coarse mixture. After the beef is ground, it is then shaped into patties using specialized patty-forming machines, which can produce patties of uniform size and shape to ensure consistency in cooking. These machines can form hundreds of patties per minute, increasing efficiency in production. After forming, the patties may undergo a process called tempering, where they are chilled to a specific temperature to improve their shape retention and prevent them from falling apart during further processing. Once tempered, the beef patties are packaged for distribution to retail outlets or food service establishments, where they may be further processed or cooked before being served to consumers. Stringent quality control measures are in place throughout the entire production process to ensure that the beef patties meet safety standards and maintain their quality. This factory in the Netherlands produces thousands of syrup waffles daily. Right here, we have a marshmallow factory where these fluffy, sweet treats are made. The process begins by mixing simple ingredients like sugar, water, and gelatin, which gives marshmallows their soft and bouncy texture. The mixture is heated and whipped until it becomes light and airy like a thick foam. This fluffy mixture is then poured into molds or onto large trays to set. Once cooled and firm, the marshmallow is cut into small, bite-sized pieces. To prevent sticking, the pieces are often dusted with powdered sugar or cornstarch. For flavored or colored marshmallows, ingredients like vanilla or food coloring are added during mixing. Finally, the marshmallows are packaged into plastic bags or boxes, ready to be enjoyed. Whether eaten on their own, in hot chocolate, or roasted over a fire, factory-made marshmallows are always soft, sweet, and delightful. This farm packer is a modern machine designed to make egg packing faster and easier. It can pack up to 36,000 eggs per hour. This automated system ensures smooth and efficient operation. One of its key features is the automatic denister, which separates trays and places them correctly for packing. This removes the need for manual work and speeds up the process. The tray detection system ensures that each egg is placed safely and correctly, reducing waste and breakage. What we see here is a fascinating process that turns liquid ingredients into delicious frozen treats. Popsicles are made in factories using a simple but efficient process. First, ingredients like fruit juice, sugar, and flavoring are mixed in large tanks. The mixture is then poured into molds shaped like popsicles. A machine inserts wooden sticks into each mold before they move into a freezing chamber. The temperature in this chamber is extremely low, which helps the popsicles freeze quickly and evenly. Once frozen, the popsicles are removed from the molds using warm water, which loosens them without melting. After that, they pass through a quality check to make sure they are the right shape, color, and texture. Next, they are wrapped in plastic or placed into boxes for packaging. Finally, the popsicles are stored in freezers until they are shipped to stores. Over 400 million Snickers bars are sold every year worldwide, proving just how much people love this classic treat. But what exactly goes into making this iconic treat? In this video, we'll take you behind the scenes to show you how Snickers bars are made, from selecting the ingredients to the final wrap. It all begins with preparing the ingredients. Key items like sugar, corn syrup, egg whites, vanilla, butter, condensed milk, roasted peanuts, and milk chocolate are stored in specific areas of the factory, ready to be used in each step of production. Next comes the Nougat, which forms the center of every Snickers bar. To start, the ingredients for the Nougat, sugar, corn syrup, egg whites, and vanilla, are carefully measured according to the factory's recipe. These measured ingredients are then poured into a large industrial mixer that can handle big batches. The mixer heats and stirs the ingredients at the same time, with the temperature and mixing speed carefully controlled to get just the right texture. Once the Nougat reaches the right consistency, roasted peanuts are added and mixed in thoroughly. This final mixing step ensures the peanuts are evenly spread throughout the Nougat, giving it the perfect balance of chewy and crunchy. After the Nougat, it's time to make the caramel. Just like with the Nougat, the ingredients are carefully measured and placed into a large industrial pot designed for large-scale production. The pot slowly heats up while its built-in stirring system keeps everything moving, helping the ingredients melt and blend together. As the corn syrup and butter melt, the mixture turns into a smooth, sticky liquid. Once it reaches the right consistency, condensed milk is added to complete the caramel. Condensed milk adds a creamy texture and a sweet flavor to the caramel. It's carefully mixed in with the rest of the ingredients to make sure everything blends smoothly. Once it's ready, this caramel will later be layered on top of the Nougat, adding that sweet, sticky layer that Snickers is known for. After molding, the Nougat travels through a cooling chamber. This step allows it to firm up and hold its shape. Once cooled, the molded Nougat is carefully removed from the molds. This has to be done gently to avoid any damage. Shaping the Nougat is a crucial step as it creates the core of the bar, the chewy, nutty center that gives Snickers its distinctive texture. Next is cutting and assembly. At this point, the molded Nougat strips are laid out on a conveyor belt or work surface ready for the next step. They're then measured and cut to the exact size needed for individual Snickers bars. This ensures that each bar is uniform and ready for the next stage in the production line. Accuracy is key when it comes to making sure every Snickers bar is the same size and weight. Once the Nougat strips are ready, they're carefully cut into individual bar-sized pieces. This is done using specialized machines that guarantee each piece is identical. After cutting, the Nougat pieces are lined up and positioned for the next stage of production, adding the caramel and chocolate. This step is critical. It divides the Nougat into single bars and gets them ready to receive the delicious layers that make Snickers so recognizable. Getting this part right is important for consistency in every finished bar. Now it's time for the caramel coating. A machine specially designed for this step applies a layer of warm caramel to the cut and assembled nougat bars. It's set to the correct temperature and speed to make sure everything runs smoothly. The nougat bars are fed onto the conveyor belt of the caramel coating machine, where they move through a flowing bath of caramel. The caramel is kept at just the right temperature so that it spreads easily and sticks evenly to each bar. As the bars move through the machine, they're dipped in the hot caramel. A controlled system ensures every surface gets coated, creating that signature sticky caramel layer. After coating, the bars are given a moment to drain, letting any extra caramel drip off before being sent through a cooling tunnel. This cooling step helps the caramel firm up and stay in place. Caramel coating is one of the most important stages in the Snickers production process. It creates that gooey layer we all know and love, and getting it right is essential to the taste and quality of the final bar. Once the caramel has set, the bars move on to chocolate coating. Here, they're dipped into melted milk chocolate using another specialized machine. Just like with the caramel, the machine ensures that each bar is completely and evenly coated with chocolate from top to bottom. After being coated in chocolate, the bars travel along a chilled conveyor belt where both the chocolate and caramel layers are cooled and hardened. This step is crucial to help the bars hold their shape and maintain the right texture. When everything is set, the bars head to packaging. Each one is wrapped in foil and placed into branded packaging, ready for shipping and distribution. Cones and bars. It all begins with a rush of speed and sweetness. They zip down the production line, ready to be transformed into irresistible treats. First, the cones light and crispy shells are lined up, 200 every minute, each one standing tall and waiting for its creamy filling. Soft ice cream flows in with perfect control, swirled to precision just enough to satisfy not a drop more. Next comes the chocolate dip. Each ice cream bar takes a smooth dive into liquid chocolate, kept at 31 degrees Celsius, just the right temperature to harden fast and coat perfectly. From there, the finished treats head straight for packaging, one step closer to satisfying a sweet craving. And here we have a cookie factory that makes millions of cookie chips every day. The production process begins by mixing basic ingredients like flour, sugar, butter, and chocolate chips in large mixers. Once the dough is ready, it is shaped into thin, bite-sized pieces. These pieces are placed on trays and baked in big ovens until they turn golden and crispy. After baking, the cookie chips are cooled and move along the production line. A machine carefully fills the chips into bags, keeping them fresh and crunchy. Each bag is then sealed and labeled with the brand name and product details. Pepsi is enjoyed by millions of people every day, and its production is a fascinating process. It begins with making a simple syrup by mixing purified water and sugar. This mixture is then sent to maturation tanks, where concentrates and carbonation are added, giving Pepsi its signature fizz and flavor. High-speed bottling machines fill sterilized bottles with the exact amount of Pepsi before sealing and labeling them. Packaging depends on demand, with common formats like 6-packs and 12-packs. Pepsi is also focusing on sustainability by using refillable glass bottles and increasing the use of recycled plastic. The company ensures that used glass bottles are collected, washed, and refilled for reuse. Aluminum cans, another packaging option, are made from recyclable materials. Throughout the process, PepsiCo is committed to reducing water usage and lowering carbon emissions. After packaging, the products are distributed worldwide to supermarkets, restaurants, and vending machines for people to enjoy. Lipton has been at the forefront of tea production for over a century. The process of making Lipton tea bags starts with carefully selected tea leaves, harvested from tea estates around the world, including India, Kenya, and Sri Lanka. The leaves are hand-picked at their peak for optimal flavor. Once the tea leaves are picked, they are transported to the factory where they undergo a precise drying process. The leaves are withered, rolled, oxidized, and dried to lock in their flavor. This process transforms the fresh tea leaves into the black, green, or herbal teas we know, with each variety processed differently to achieve unique flavors. Once dried, the tea is blended according to Lipton's carefully crafted recipes. Expert tea tasters ensure that each blend meets the brand's high standards for flavor and consistency. The tea is then placed into bags made of heat-sealed, biodegradable materials. Each tea bag contains just the right amount of tea for a perfect brew. After bagging, the tea bags are packed into Lipton's iconic yellow boxes. Throughout the process, rigorous quality control checks are carried out to ensure each tea bag delivers a consistent, flavorful cup of tea. Frozen pizza is produced in factories using a highly efficient method that combines advanced technology with stringent quality control to provide tasty, convenient meals. It all begins with preparing the dough, made from a precise blend of flour, water, yeast, and other ingredients. The dough is mixed and left to rise before being rolled into flat sheets and cut into the desired pizza shapes. Next, the pizza bases are partially baked in high-temperature ovens, ensuring a firm crust while maintaining softness inside. After cooling the partially baked crusts, move along conveyor belts to the topping stations. Here, sauce is evenly spread, followed by layers of cheese, meats, and vegetables. Each topping is applied with precision using automated dispensers to guarantee consistency. The fully assembled pizzas are then flash frozen in specialized freezers that rapidly reduce their temperature. This process locks in freshness and preserves the taste and texture of the ingredients. Once frozen, the pizzas are packaged in boxes designed to prevent damage and maintain product quality during transport. Throughout the production, rigorous quality control checks ensure every pizza meets safety and flavor standards. These frozen pizzas are then distributed to stores ready to provide customers with a quick and delicious meal option. Ready meals are a marvel of modern food manufacturing, offering convenience without compromising on taste. The process begins with the careful selection of high-quality ingredients sourced from trusted suppliers to ensure freshness and safety. Ingredients are then prepped, cooked, and assembled in state-of-the-art kitchens where precision and hygiene are paramount. Advanced machinery handles tasks such as chopping, mixing, and portioning, while trained workers oversee quality control at every stage. Meals are cooked using industrial ovens, steamers, or fryers to replicate home-style cooking. Once cooked, the meals are rapidly chilled or frozen to lock in flavor and nutrients. Packaging is another critical step designed to preserve the food's quality and provide easy reheating options. Over 16 million tons of pasta are eaten worldwide each year, and this Italian factory helps meet that demand by producing over 10 billion boxes of spaghetti annually. This massive facility produces 60% of the country's pasta, totaling 330,000 tons per year. While it makes 110 pasta types, this video focuses on how it creates the most popular, spaghetti. The process begins with a massive delivery of wheat. A train with 20 cars brings in about 150 tons of it. This wheat comes from many parts of the world, and since each batch can be slightly different, they are carefully mixed to make sure the pasta always tastes the same. Wheat arrives at the factory in large shipments and is stored in temperature-controlled silos that hold up to 600,000 tons. Each batch undergoes an 8-hour quality check before processing. Since only wheat and water are used to make dried pasta, quality is crucial. The wheat travels 200 meters to a massive 7-story mill, Europe's largest, where it's inspected for weight, moisture, protein, and color. Defective grains are removed, and the rest are blended for consistency. Vibrating separators then eliminate any remaining impurities like straw or stones. After cleaning, the wheat is soaked in water for 30 hours. Once it's fully soaked, it's ready to be ground into semolina, the special flour used to make pasta. The grinding takes place in a rotating mill that breaks open the hard outer shell of the grain to release the pale yellow endosperm inside. But the challenge doesn't end there. Now, the semolina must be separated from the rest of the grain. This is done using a powerful sifting system. The grain is shaken through a series of filters that gradually separate the fine semolina from any remaining dust or husk. 8 of these machines operate non-stop, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and can process up to 34 tons of wheat per hour. Once the pure semolina is ready, it's sent to the production area. It first passes through a hopper, then drops into a high-speed mixer where it's combined with water to form dough in just 5 to 10 seconds. This machine can mix between 1 and 2 tons of semolina per hour. The biggest challenge at this stage is avoiding lumps. To solve this, each grain of semolina is soaked in water before entering the mixer. Inside, the dough is shaken with intense vibrations, stronger than even an expert Italian chef could manage, until it becomes soft and smooth, like a pillow. After 20 minutes, the dough is fully mixed and ready to be shaped into spaghetti. Next, the dough goes to the extrusion stage. It is pushed through special metal plates called dies that have holes shaped to create spaghetti. The dough comes out in long, thin strands and is cut to the right length by fast-spinning blades, forming a curtain of pasta over 1 meter wide. The machine uses 2 die blocks and presses the dough through them at 100 times normal pressure, producing 11,000 spaghetti strands every minute. That's 83,000 meters of spaghetti. As the spaghetti strands come out, they are laid onto moving rails and cut into 65-centimeter pieces. At this point, the pasta still contains about 30% water. It's important to dry the spaghetti properly to prevent mold and ensure it stays fresh. The pasta is sent into large dryers with 6 tons leaving the production line every hour. These dryers work like a giant version of a clothesline. In the past, spaghetti was dried in the open air for 3 days, using the warm breeze. Today, the process is far more advanced and efficient thanks to modern technology. Huge metal machines handle the drying process, which is so energy-intensive that the factory uses enough electricity to power 30,000 homes. The pasta begins a 10-hour journey through what is essentially a massive industrial dryer. In the first hour, heat removes 10% of the pasta's moisture. Over the next 9 hours, the spaghetti goes through 3 more heating stages until it reaches its final moisture level of 12%. This slow and careful drying process is what gives boxed spaghetti its long shelf life. The temperature and timing are strictly controlled to make sure the pasta doesn't crack or become too brittle. This also helps ensure it cooks properly without breaking. After drying, the spaghetti reaches the final stage of production where it's cut to length. In the past, spaghetti was sold in 50-centimeter strands, but today it's cut to 25 centimeters to make it easier for consumers to cook and store. Next, the spaghetti is sent to a lab for detailed testing. Technicians check the thickness, gluten levels, color, and even perform an al dente test to make sure it cooks just right. Once it passes all tests, the spaghetti is ready for packaging. A computer system measures the exact amount for each package. The pasta travels down a chute, and a moving container fills the packages with the right amount. The machine can fill 10 bags of 4 kilograms each in just 1 minute, and up to 60 bags per minute if needed. Each day, 100 tons are shipped out, with 65% going abroad, enough to make 30 million pasta dishes every day. As we continue, we see how this factory produces thousands of chocolate-coated nougat bars every day. The process begins with making the nougat, a chewy mixture of sugar, honey, and whipped egg whites, often mixed with nuts or caramel for extra flavor. The nougat is poured into large trays and cooled until it becomes firm. Then, it is cut into bar shapes using sharp-moving blades. Next comes the chocolate coating. Each bar moves along a conveyor belt and passes through a curtain of warm, melted chocolate that covers it completely. After coating, the bars enter a cooling tunnel where the chocolate hardens into a smooth, shiny layer. Finally, the finished bars are wrapped, labeled, and packed into boxes ready to be sent to stores. As we continue, this factory process, one of the most popular treats in Asia, fish-shaped cakes. It all begins with batter being poured into fish-shaped molds on a hot machine. The molds close, and the cakes bake until golden brown. Some cakes are filled with sweet fillings like chocolate, custard, or red bean paste. After baking, the cakes move along a conveyor belt to cool down. Workers or machines check each cake to ensure it is well cooked and has the right shape. Cakes that pass the quality check go to the packaging area. In packaging, machines carefully wrap each cake in plastic or place them in boxes. Labels with the product name and ingredients are added. Finally, the packaged cakes are placed in cartons and sent to stores. Now, let's step inside this honey spoon factory, where the finest honey is carefully selected for its rich flavor. But they don't stop at regular spoons. They shape honey into adorable spoon forms using plastic or silicone. Each honey spoon is then tightly sealed with fancy film or foil, like a tiny, sweet gift. This ensures you can simply grab, unwrap, and enjoy without any mess. Finally, the spoons are packed in boxes or trays, keeping them safe during transport. Once they reach your kitchen, they're ready to add a touch of natural sweetness to your tea, toast, or any treat. A simple, convenient, and delightful way to enjoy pure honey anytime. Every day, about 100 million rolls of toilet paper are used worldwide. It is one of the most essential items in our homes. But how is it made in factory? Toilet paper was invented in 1857 by American businessman Joseph Gaiety, who introduced it to the market under the name therapeutic paper. At first, it was sold in packages of pre-cut sheets. However, in 1890, a major innovation changed everything. the roll format was introduced. This made toilet paper more practical and accessible. On average, each person uses about 100 rolls of toilet paper per year. Globally, that adds up to around 21 billion rolls annually, enough to wrap around the Earth multiple times. To reduce tree cutting, the industry relies heavily on recycling other types of paper. However, turning rough, used paper into soft, absorbent toilet paper is a complex process that has been refined over the past 150 years. This impressive paper mill produces high-quality toilet paper using an advanced recycling process that gives discarded paper a new life. It all begins with tons of paper arriving from schools, offices, and universities. Each sheet goes through a careful sorting process, where office paper, magazines, and newspapers are separated based on strict quality standards. Only the cleanest, whitest, and highest quality papers are selected for recycling. These papers have strong fibers and are easier to transform into soft toilet paper. Once sorted, the paper is compressed into large bales for efficient storage. These compact bales take up less space, making it easier to manage the materials in the factory. Now, the transformation process can begin. About 200 tons of paper are recycled each day. The process begins with a machine called the pulverizer, a large industrial tank that works like a giant blender. It mixes recycled paper with water at high speed, breaking the paper down into its basic fibers. Since the fibers must be fully separated, a significant amount of water is added, much more than the paper itself, creating a watery mixture called pulp. Inside the pulverizer, rotating blades stir the mixture forcefully, breaking the paper into small particles and releasing the cellulose fibers that originally made up the sheets. This process takes about 10 minutes, during which the fibers become long and flexible, an essential quality for forming new paper. Once the paper has turned into pulp, it must be cleaned to remove impurities. The first step involves passing it through a series of filters and sieves, which work like strainers to remove larger debris such as staples, plastic, glue, and any undissolved fragments. Even after this initial cleaning, the pulp remains dark due to leftover ink. To remove it, the factory uses a technique called flotation. Air is introduced into the pulp, creating bubbles, while special chemicals called surfactants help ink particles attach to these bubbles. As the bubbles rise to the surface, they carry the ink with them, forming a foam that is then removed. Once the ink is removed, the pulp passes through a series of rollers that squeeze out excess water and absorb bleaching chemicals. Rotating blades then cut the pulp to prepare it for the bleaching process, where the recycled cellulose pulp is further purified. Although the ink has been extracted, the pulp still appears gray rather than white. This is because it contains 5 to 10% newspaper, which has lignin, a natural component that gives paper its color. To remove lignin, a chemical bleaching process is used. The pulp is placed in a large bleaching tower where it stays in contact with special chemicals at a controlled temperature for several minutes. This process gives toilet paper its bright white color. To achieve the strength and softness that make toilet paper comfortable to use, 2 types of virgin fibers are added. Short fibers from hardwoods enhance brightness, whiteness, and softness. Long fibers from softwoods provide strength and durability. Next, the bleached pulp is spread onto a plate and passed through a powerful dryer, removing most of the water and allowing the fibers to bond. In less than a second, the pulp transforms into a thin sheet of paper, only 0.1 millimeters thick. Once formed, the paper is rolled into giant reels, each holding up to 75 kilometers of paper. These large rolls are then transported to the converting section, where they are cut into the familiar 10-centimeter wide toilet paper rolls used in homes. The converting process begins by unwinding the parent reels, preparing the paper to be cut and processed into the familiar toilet paper rolls. To make it easy to tear toilet paper features perforation lines. As the paper unrolls, it passes through a perforating machine, which creates small, evenly spaced slits. These perforations allow the paper to separate into 10 to 12 centimeter sheets, making it more convenient to use. Additionally, embossing is applied to add texture, which increases the paper's thickness, absorbency, and softness. Meanwhile, in another part of the factory, cardboard tubes are created. Two 80-centimeter wide cardboard sheets are glued diagonally to form a continuous tube, which is then cut into 165-centimeter sections. These tubes are transported to the winding area, where two layers of paper are combined to create double-ply toilet paper. The paper is wound onto the cardboard tubes, forming large rolls. Once a roll is complete, a blade automatically cuts it, and the process continues with the next tube. The end of each roll is sealed with glue to prevent it from unraveling. Then, a circular saw cuts it into 16 standard rolls, each 10 centimeters wide. Finally, the toilet paper is ready for packaging. Rolls for commercial use are individually wrapped in paper, while those for home use are packed in transparent plastic, in sets of 4 to 30 rolls. And just like that, in about 15 hours, tons of used paper and cellulose fibers are transformed into fresh, ready-to-use toilet paper, re-entering daily life.